Yeah, what a time to be alive. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I've been thinking about this particular moment right now um, I think we talked about having this conversation maybe 3 weeks ago. And I was kind of excited about the beginning, and then the more and more I've been thinking about it, um, to the point that like my drive out here, I drove from Colorado, it's about 37 hours altogether with driving and sleeping and shopping. I spent the majority of it either calling my friends, artists and people whose opinions I really value, and talking to them about it, and then talking to myself about it in the car and where we're at. And I think that, just to preface what we're about to talk about, I feel that right now we're at, in my lifetime, in the 44 years that I've been alive, this is defensively the most interesting, pivotal moment of a new epoch of human beings and our relationship with creativity, with our imagination, and with our relationship to creative tools will never, the genie is out of the bottle, it'll never be the same. And I thought this was a really great moment in time for us to talk about this in front of you guys. We're going to do some questions and answers, and I feel that Sam is one of the most qualified persons on the planet to be able to answer some of the questions I have and explain his thoughts and ideas around it. And I have my own questions and thoughts, and I also want to be, I kind of want to be of service to the artists, and serve for, kind of be their stand-in and advocate, and express, I know, a lot of the thoughts and concerns they have too. And we're really curious to what you guys think after you hear both of our sides and ideas around this. Sound good?
Sounds good. So my side of this is on the technology side, and I think AI has been through the beginnings, the very early beginnings of this exponential curve of we have figured out how to make intelligence. A lot of the deeper questions about consciousness, what it means to someday like build life in a computer, truly no idea, even less of an idea if we want that or not. But when it comes to intelligence, when it comes to computers that can understand and learn, I think we have figured out how to do that. And again, it's the very, very beginning, but this exponential curve that we're on, maybe it'll top out at some point, but not in the next decade, I would say. And the things that we have now, which we'll talk about, one of this tool that Satya mentioned called DALL-E, that you can sort of say whatever you'd like and the computer will generate an image for it. That'll get really good. That'll get like indistinguishable from reality. But it would also do video, music, poetry, all of these things. One of the big surprises to me, at least, about how this has gone is if you asked people sort of 10 years ago the impact of AI on society, they would have said, first of all, it's going to do the sort of the traditional physical labor, factories, self-driving trucks, cars, whatever, then the kind of intellectual labor, and first sort of the easier things, and then eventually maybe like computer programming, and maybe someday even like proving math theorems, and very last of all, maybe never, but very last of all, if at all, will be the creativity. That's this deeply human thing. The machines can never create new ideas. And from where we can sit now, it looks like it's going exactly the opposite way. We can generate art, or we can generate images. We can help computer programmers. We can write about half their code for them now. And again, like we can talk about it more later, but this is just going to accelerate. The AI will get sufficiently smart that it will help us design future iterations, and the rate of change, I think, should from now on be quite fast. As someone with no artistic talent myself, this field has felt like a new superpower to me. And I can tell that as we get this to a world where it's not like, right now you type in something and it takes 10 to 15 seconds and you get one image back. But we're going to get to something where it generates as fast as you type. And you can actually have a conversation back and forth. So you can say, oh, I didn't quite mean it like this. What if we try this, now we do this. And I think it'll be this sort of new experience of the way we interface with the world. You will talk to a computer in real time, and it will generate whatever you want. And the art, one of the things that makes me sort of more optimistic is that the quality of output from artists versus me are like completely different things. It's amazing to watch artists use these tools, but that's kind of what's happening from our perspective. We're just going to have this intelligence explosion. I think over the next decade, society will get fundamentally rewired because the two fundamental constraints, I think, basically are intelligence and energy, and we're going to see both of those have a price that trends towards zero and a just like incredible increase in what's possible. But whether that's going to be like all good or all bad, I think it can be incredibly great. We don't know. And so to start, I would say, like, do you hate us? Do you hate us? Like, are you happy about this?
Honestly. I'll just start it off like this. There was a conversation I had with my friend Travis Threadkill, who's he's the creator of Obscura Digital, certifiably or subjectively the most brilliant genius that I know as a creative thinker. He's an artist that makes mediums. You know, the things we've done Sydney Opera House, Empire State Building. And so he was one of the first people that I really wanted to get on the phone to kind of work this through, and talked for a few hours. And there was a moment where we were sort of contemplating, it's like, because like I said, I think what I really want to make clear is that based off my very limited data set of my experiences, what I speculate, talking to my friends, I have no qualifications to predict where this is going to go, and I think it's actually impossible for anyone to be able to predict. There's too many factors. There's 100%. Too much acceleration to even any kind of speculation is. It's just that. These aren't predictions, but it is. I will say that a lot of the predictions, whether it's as I get older and more cynical. I think I'm more avoidant of pain than seeking pleasure, and a lot of the conversations I had with my art friends got pretty dark pretty quick. And when you start exploring the depths of the downside of this, I did consider it a moment. It's like, man, at this point the genie's out of the bottle, and Pandora's opened this box, and there's no, you're leading us into you admit that nobody can predict where we're going, and you're leading us into a future kind of like an explorer, but you can't bring us back. And a lot of people you weren't voted, it's like, look at all the energy we spend on elections and having this little puppet in power, and meanwhile there's a group of really brilliant individuals that can create a tool and that will fundamentally change. You are meddling with the primal forces of humans' relationship with the creative experience forever. Nobody voted you. No one had a say in that. And so, given it's like the Pandora's box. When you play with curiosity and you open these new possibilities, you also invite terrible, unforeseen circumstances and conclusions. And just seeing where we're at, where we could be, and how bad it could be. There was a moment where I did entertain the idea of man, if I could go back like Terminator, I would potentially sacrifice my life to maybe strangle you, or have I've got a bomb here, and just if I knew that I could safeguard this from ever happening to art and all the artists that I would save, I'd let go of everything for that, and I don't have that. And that was a dark aspect of it, I'll admit, but it's it's kind of at that level. But I think before we get there, I'd love to give you a little bit more context of how I came to even entertaining a possibility of murdering someone to avoid a future that could be so terrible. But I will say that after that, I've gone up and down. It's been a roller coaster as a creative person on the positives and the negatives of this. But I think that's kind of just dove right into that one. To give a little context, a little context, and I promise I will not hurt a hair on your beautiful body.
Thank you.
You're totally safe. You're totally safe. I feel you're even safer now that I got that out and expressed that. We did have one conversation a few weeks ago, and it was really pleasant. But since then, talking to more people, and it's such a huge concept that it really takes a lot of time to just soak in and just explore the probabilities of where this can go. And I've come to the conclusion that time for debating the possibility of this is, as you know, is we're never going back. And so we have to embrace the 100% probability this is where we're at. And if you were just one, like, you know, like that fantasy was like kind of going back in time to killing Hitler, like it's not just you, it's Midjourney, it's Stable Diffusion, it's Disco Diffusion. I have to, if I can surrender my own biases and kind of zoom out, I think it's important to see that this is a movement that's happening with technology and humans and what we're creating that's unstoppable. And so that, if seeing the unstoppability of it is something that makes me more compliant to try to, I've got 3 kids. I've got a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 11-month-old. And so I'm invested in the future. You know, I can't be cynical. I can't doom and gloom. Like, I want to be able to take steps into making the future and creating as many, the largest probability bubble of goodness for my children and all the children. So, hence kind of the killing Hitler in the past for that. But like I said, we're past that. So we're going to make the best of it. But if I can just give you guys context from my perspective, I've been making art since I was 5. I love making art. The experience of making art is, it's the greatest blessing that I've had in my life before my children. I studied drawing and painting, old masters. I dissected cadavers to learn anatomy, like the journey that I went to develop the craft and the muscle memories is extensive, and it's given me a feeling of like pride and dignity and identity, and I don't know who I would be. I would not be the man in front of you if I didn't have the outlet of expressing myself creatively through my hands, through the craft, and wow, did my voice just get deeper or louder? That's cool. I guess it's one of the most valuable things I have as a human, and my experience, I'm not a Luddite. I challenge you to find someone that loves tools more than me, physical tools, digital tools, tools that do things that expand the possibilities of my consciousness. 96, I got my first Wacom, got into Photoshop, put my oils and acrylics away. I was like, this is where we're going. You know, I've gotten into VR, gotten into 3D computer animation. I'm a fan of tools that enhance humans' ability to manifest their imagination and their ideas very much. And so on that side, the things that are happening here, it's the most exciting thing I've ever seen in my life, from a creative, imaginative level. And just if we want to rewind just like to last month, I had a bunch of friends that would send me links. I try not to do too much social media out there, but like, hey, have you tried Midjourney? Have you had Draw-Lee? And I'd see things and I'd see some images like, it's kind of cool. I think I still had a bad taste in my mouth from all those like Google dog fractal animations. I was like, this is horrible. Like, our jobs are totally safe. Like, we're not going anywhere. And then I got access to Midjourney, which is a very similar. Midjourney, though, specifically has really seemed to hone its data set in on conceptual development and concept art and different artists. And I saw some really incredible stuff coming out, and like week by week it got more unbelievable to the point where it's like, okay, let me really try this out. And the process is you make prompts, and so you prompt and say, hey, I want something like this, in the style of this, and it starts making images. And I was on a phone with, I was talking to this psychedelic Australian Psytrance festival that wanted me to do some art for them, and they were describing their event. And just like in the last 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, what's the name of the event? Oh, Wild Wastelands. What kind of colors you're looking? Like, I had 20 poster designs. I felt almost confident with a little overpainting I could have just submitted that were created in the last 5 minutes of the conversation. And from there, the rabbit hole just got deeper. And if this wasn't a real thing, I'd be the first one to be trying to argue to John Henry that humans have any possibility of competing with this. But now there's, like I said, art is never going to be the same, and there's a distinction between kind of commercial art and, you know, the woo-woo, the art for art's sake. And I think right now where things are at, I don't want to make too many big predictions, but I feel like I confidently say I used to have a background of a conceptual artist. I did it for 5 years, worked for Nintendo. A huge group of my friends are conceptual artists. The idea of being able to support yourself as someone that is drawing and making images with the skills that you've developed from your imagination that could in any way, shape, or form compete with this type of image creation is absolutely obsolete. It's over. Like, that entire career path is decimated. It's just that's no longer going to be a thing. I think that's, when it comes to, I mean, so funny, I talk about, none of my visionary art friends ever saw this coming, you know? And the conceptual, I think entertainment will be the first to see the biggest impact. And yeah, it'll just start spreading from there. But I'd love to hear, one thing I'm questioning is, like, how do you define what creative intelligence is?
Before I answer that,
Yeah, please. I said a lot. Take your time.
I appreciate you not killing me. But I have like made peace with the fact that I think there's some reasonable chance someone's going to do that to me at some point. I'm like much bigger movement than any one person, but like you kind of, the CEO always gets the blame or whatever. And I do think as people see that this is not just going to happen to art, but happen to everything, and understand that like nothing is ever going to be the same again, and that this would have happened whether or not we existed. Maybe it happened a couple of years more quickly, but like we have to try to make this good. I don't think society can stop this, and I do think the other side can be incredible. And I think like our whole thing here is now that given this is unavoidable, given that we're all going to have this, how do we collectively decide? How does the world decide what we want? And I think that is possible. And I think like, actually I find Burning Man quite inspirational for like a little taste of how big the space can be of what we can go do. But, you know, taking away jobs, certainly I think some of the earliest jobs that we take away will be like engineering, management, stuff like that. So I feel this too, because that's like my identity. That's what I love. Like my version of creative expression is companies. This is just a very strange time. This is like the last decade, I think, where humans are the smartest thing we know about in the universe. And in terms of what creative intelligence is, I actually think the machines don't quite have it yet. I think it's a very powerful illusion. I think the machines certainly have some understanding, like true conceptual understanding. I think that's like now beyond doubt. If anyone who uses these tools for a little while and watches the way that it can like combine concepts that have never been seen before, I think that's pretty impressive. But the ability to sort of decide to go do something new, to learn something new and figure it out, we have no idea how to do that yet. We have some ideas, but a thing that Android has said a few times is no one knows what the future is going to look like. No one knows what's going to happen here. No one knows what. Everyone's predictions have been horrifically wrong so far about advanced AI. I expect them to only get worse as time goes on. But for me, creative intelligence is about how do I go decide I want to do something brand new, inherently somehow, learn to go do that thing by myself and then go do it. And so right now, like, the AI can follow instructions. It can look like it is creating in some sense, right? It's like generating a new image for you. But I think this is still somewhat more of a parlor trick than it looks. And although I think, like, as you said, the kind of commercial art jobs are gone, and it doesn't do anyone any good for us or you to pretend otherwise. It's an annoying thing to me about most people in the AI field that they'll never just say this. I think the kind of like deep creative intelligence is, I believe that we'll figure out how to do that someday. I'm kind of sad about it, but I don't think we know yet.
Yeah. Something that's just I'm just going to go kind of off the top of my head too on just some questions, and this can kind of meander around too. But so I have no debate over the value of artificial intelligence. And when I look at that from an artist's perspective, I look at the world, and you look at, I'm sure you get this in a lot of your pitch meetings. It's like there's a lot of problems. Like we have there's so many problems out there dealing with like humanity and where we're going and the environment and our consciousness. The question I have is that like out of all these things that AI could benefit, that humans could benefit, like what problem does this solve for?
This first one of
image generation. Like where was the problem? You know what? Like, oh, those persnickety artists, they think they're so special. Oh, their skills and their crafts, you know, like I didn't see anybody clamoring, let's put them all out of business. You know, like where was that a problem that this solves for, and I can't argue that there's value in it, but where do you see this as a problem-solving perspective?
You know, I think it's like a great question, and I think the outside view is like, well, you know, why doesn't OpenAI go cure cancer or solve climate change? And we would like to do that. Like if we could pick one thing to do first, obviously we would have picked that one.
But the lowest hanging fruit was just putting all commercial artists out of work.
Not even that. We kind of like follow the path of technology, right? Like when we started OpenAI, as you said yourself, you can't predict these things. We had a very different idea about how we were going to get to true general purpose intelligence, and none of it worked. The first thing that worked is we started making these language models, which are now called GPT-3. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. Some people have, cool. And that was pretty good at language. That's one model architecture. And it can do a lot of things. It has some real weaknesses. And we had some ideas for how to push that forward, which we're now doing. But we kind of, in the process of realizing some of its weaknesses, one of our researchers had a new idea, which was to take this other idea, unlike a language model, which is called an autoregressive model, where it's predicting the next word one at a time, and to do something called diffusion, where you sort of try to, by iterative refinement, generate something that's more and more accurate representation of you want. You literally add in random noise, and then you learn how to take it out. And this is promising for a bunch of reasons. But one of the first things that it worked for was image generation. And we didn't set out to unemploy visual artists, of course, but we thought we built something that would be useful and would be valuable to people. And hopefully you find some use and value out of it. I certainly think some of the stuff you've done is amazing.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I've made hundreds and hundreds of images with it. I mean, I have 3 kids, so like I said, I'm rocking my son to sleep. I'm throwing in a prompt. I'm doing this. There's an addictive aspect of it too. Following like the community. I love mashing up artists, like different artists from different. I did the other day. I did like I love Egon Schiele is one of my favorite German expressionisms. And when Midjourney did like their new, and this is the thing, just to give you perspective, first couple weeks, oh, this is really crazy. Like, oh, wow, like the results I'm getting are unbelievable, but like the faces are a little off. I'm like, okay, well, my buddies will maybe the future of the concept art is they'll just be kind of like rotoscoping or touching things up or doing portraits. So that's cool, that's safe. A week goes on, they put a new beta, nailed the faces, nailed the eyes, like unbelievable, like night and day difference. They let the beta out for like 12 hours, then like took it back. And I did one of like, the prompt was like Elon Schiele and Egon Musk. And it made a portrait of Elon Musk in the style of Elon Schiele. It was like, it's so terrifying. It's kind of like, it's like watching the more I play with it, it's like watching a scary movie to like see when like the jump scare of the monster comes out. So there's a cleverness involved in the prompts. There's some understanding, and there's also this slot machine element of it, which is, I am a little concerned about that, of just like you kind of, hit generate and you see what comes up, and then each one of those you can refine it more, you can up-res it, refine it more, and I mean, it's a godlike power, absolutely. When you say superpower, and so I can see that like a lot of people have these ideas in their heads that they can't afford a concept artist, they can't put it out there, they're not good at drawing, they didn't spend their time with that craft. I could see that like the novelty of it is very cool and very interesting. It's the deeper implications and the consequences of that are the things that really or where my mind went after that.
How do you think about the positive consequences for society as a whole?
I mean, zooming out, like one of my fundamental spiritual ideas is that as I believe in a creator, and I believe that we were created to create. I see that we're kind of a generative, recursive algorithm of consciousness. I mean, I'm open to the idea that maybe our grand purpose is to give birth to a new type of silicon consciousness. I will say I'm a really big fan of, I would consider ourselves water consciousness. Big fan of water consciousness.
Super great.
Very little terribly nervous about silicon consciousness, you know, like read some John C. Lilly, you'll know what I'm talking about. You know, there's a lot of crazy implications there, but you know, maybe that's what we do. Maybe we're just an intermediary of giving birth to a whole new thing. This is the positives. I'll give you the positives first. I think it's good to start with the positives. Positives are never before. This is the greatest evolutionary pressure that creative artists will ever face in any of our lifetimes. And so from that, where you've raised the bar to such a ridiculous level, and you know, honestly too, it's like supporting yourself as an artist, like was that bar not high enough? Like it wasn't high enough already, so you threw it into the stratosphere. I'm a big believer and lover of humans. I'm sure you love humans too. There will be artists that break through that glass ceiling and prove to humanity that there's something inside of us that may never be able to be recreated. You listen to like Nina Simone, like there's something about like the physical, the human pouring his soul into something. I'd like to think that art is, at first I was like, well, you know, so just to zoom out too, a lot of the things I'll be expressing are going to sound really similar to all the stages of grief while dying. You know, there's like the argument, there's the anger that I expressed, there's the denial, there's the bartering. A lot of bartering has been going on for me and all the artists. I'm speaking collectively for all the artists that are freaking out right now about it. But there's kind of part of the bartering is like, well, you know, what makes art really valuable is, I'd like to think that what makes my art powerful is like, I'm much more into the process than I am the product of the art. Me being able to express my consciousness, the experience of being creative, just like the flow of that, the tapping into something that's bigger than me, just the excitement. I like to think my woo-woo that I'm able to, you know, I use psychedelics so I can see the truth of myself. I want to make something that's true, and I want to put everything I can into that, and I want to think that something about that, you know, the pixels or the final image is just the residue of that experience, and I monetize that so I can keep having the experience. And so I think, you know, well, you know, the computer will never be able to recreate that. How does it know the suffering of man? How does it know what I've been through? How can it speak to another person? I think I had that idea from like maybe like a few days until I really started thinking of it, is that it's just a matter of time, and I think it's really about the size of the data set that it's looking at. Because like I said, all the truth that I can communicate to you and try to distill into a two-dimensional image, my experience of conscience on Earth, it's like looking through the head of a needle out into outer space. You know, for everything I'm able to absorb, I'm so fallible. This type of artificial intelligence, it will have access potentially to everything. Every person, everything we've liked, everything we've committed digitally, every atrocity and suffering that human has gone through, all of our accomplishments. I mean, it has the possibility of being a level of intelligent mirror for us that it would be impossible for me to ever even pretend that I could create that. And so there's something so, you can see on my legs, there's something so profound, like the highest point, there's something so profound and moving about that. That helps me like fall asleep at night when I think of those type of things, and that this is the new evolution of art, kind of like whether we're ready or not. Like I said, art will never be the same. The field of visual art, and honestly, what is terrifying about the exponential acceleration is I believe that as mind-blowing as what's happening right now, I think this is the snowflake on the tip of the whole iceberg, people. Because, I mean, with this type of like acceleration, it's not just that your company is going to, do Moore's law. It's all of these technologies coming together with stable diffusion, with the modeling, with the animation. I mean, films after this. Can you talk about what kind of things you think will be possible 4 or 5 years, or I don't know how, whatever time frame you feel? What's the experience of someone? What's a great example of like a high level creative experience for the future artist?
I loved what you said earlier about none of us can have confident predictions here, and we really feel that a lot. But I do think, with reasonable likelihood, 4 or 5 years from now, you will be able to sit and talk with a computer and have this real-time feedback, which I think, at least in my own experience of the creative process, is super important and something that's very much missing right now. But you'll have this sort of real-time loop where you'll just talk in natural language and express yourself, and you'll see things, and then it'll change the way you think, and you'll change the way the generation happens, and that'll be across images, video, audio, probably other formats, maybe some new formats we don't even really think about today. I am optimistic, by the way. I think more than you that art has been through, like, when photography came along, people were like, this is the end of artists, and we found sort of new ways to do this kind of artistic expression. I am optimistic that like we are all gonna get art that is amazing beyond any of our expectations right now. It's just gonna be totally different. And people that have artistic talent are going to drive things far beyond. So we are gonna lose something, that's for sure, but I believe that we collectively as society and individually, artists will too, gain more than we lose here. And I think that's just going to be the trajectory of all of this technology.
I'd like to counterpoint the gaining more than we lose kind of perspective too. So where I want to be really clear too, like this isn't just building a better mousetrap type of like an epoch of a changing thing. This completely rewrites through. It's not a hammer that hits harder, like it's a fundamental level shift.
I accept that.
Okay. One area that I definitely go to a lot, I guess I kind of mentioned earlier, just the experience of drawing and painting and the evolution. I've gone from crayons to acrylic to pixels to polygons to vertexes to point clouds. Like I love all of it. I love and embrace like all those things, but particularly, art. And there's an interesting conversation between art as the commercial art that you're going to make money with and art for the sake of art and the value that is. Like I said, I feel that for me, I had a lot of trauma growing up, and for me, art was the only way that I could heal from that trauma. And art the drawing and painting as a point of friction for my consciousness. I think any type of real healing happens from deep introspection, and I feel that the creative experience is one of the most amazing pieces of friction to have those realizations and kind of come to that. But if I think of all the joy that art has given me, and what I'm concerned about is that I feel that not only is this sort of the death of right now the entertainment arts, it feels like it's the death of craft and drawing and painting as we know it. Because at the same time, my daughter, she loves drawing with colored pencils. She'll be doing that for a while. In my journey, once you get to like 10 or 11 and 12, people start asking you, what are you going to do when you grow up? And like, oh, I don't know. Like maybe, like I was never going to be an astronaut. It's like, oh, maybe I'll be a comic book artist or that. As we develop, once we learn the sad truth that this is a planet that you have to pay to live, which is a big issue out there, that I don't think that I would have been able to dedicate so much of my life and my time to discovering these skills that gave me a sense of worth, gave me a sense of dignity, if there wasn't some type of carrot out there that, yeah, if I keep doing this, well, I'll get a job of that too. When we take away, it's all incentives. You guys are always about incentives. When you take away the incentive that this skill will add any value, existential value to you surviving, how many years and how many generations until it becomes irrelevant? And what's the point of drawing and painting? Like, how far is that going to go when my daughter can just say, hey, I want to see a series with rainbow unicorn kittens exploring the polar Arctics through a hyperdimensional, whatever they can say, they will see. So what is that going to do to, I just feel that humans, I know a lot of people are having a really hard time. We've got a lot of like mental health issues right now. And what's the mental health landscape going to be by doing something that robs the future of all the dignity that humans develop through the exercise of these crafts and these skills? And what's going to replace that? Because in my experience of the prompts and it's interesting, but there's a hollow. Like, I don't feel I really made any of this. I haven't posted anything. I wouldn't sell any of these things. Like, I felt kind of clever that I arrived at them, but there's no sense of like, there's no way to compare this to the satisfaction of bringing an image from nothing and sharing it with people. So I feel that we may be at kind of like the last stage of these organic artists that operated like this, because this will change. Like, it's a BC and an AD for art. This is the honest artificial. This is like the year of the artifice. Like, you can't put this back in a box. And I wonder how, like, does your team, what are the conversations like? Or, I mean, have you, I mean, if I can kind of be like a voice for that, like, do you guys consider like the amount of like, maybe there's a great future out there, but like right now, like the amount of pain and despair and anxiety that my community of artists is feeling because this new thing you released, all of their dreams are on fire and nobody's putting them out. Everybody in school, and I know these are just big, progress and things will move on, but like, what would be your response to these very real consequences? And I just mean, who are we as humans and culture with the way as our relationship to art and creating art as a form of expression has defined us? And what are we when we take part of that away and we're giving that to this tool? I just feel like it's one of the most special, valuable things we have, and to have a tool that makes that obsolete and irrelevant and removes all incentive towards that craft and all these disciplines freaks me out, and it makes me sad. It makes me angry. It makes me mad. Like, how dare you do this? And but I want to give you the opportunity. What's this bright future that's worth this sacrifice that everybody is making without their consent?
So first of all, I appreciate you saying that. It's probably not, I would have a hard time getting up, sitting next to someone and saying that in front of a group, but I think it's like super fair. And I agree with the community, I agree with you. I think it is quite shitty that a relatively small group of people, the handful of efforts working towards very powerful general AI, are making decisions about what's going to happen. And I think one of the things that we hope to do by releasing products like this is to get the world to pay attention. Because I think if we don't have a global conversation about this, where people who are in their very busy lives take the time to think about this and decide what the rules are going to be, what we all want, how the future is going to look, I think that's going to be really bad. And it has been the strangest thing, maybe until the last year, but the strangest thing for me about working on OpenAI is how little people have cared. And I think if people don't care, we cannot have the global conversation about what we want. If people are starting to now, artists certainly do now.
Artists, yeah, you got our attention, loud and clear, like, because it is interesting. I think a lot of technology has been a lot of overpromised and under-delivering You know, like where's my jetpack? Where's my flying car? Where's my self-driving car? You know, any of those things. And like, this is something that I think it's impossible. Like, I am a believer in the exponential and unpredictable potential that this kind of technology has. And that is, I can see that being a value, that it does make people pay attention. I mean, better this than it, you know.
But that's not the main reason. Like, the main reason we do this, I'll give a few. Like, number one, we think more AI in the world is going to be, on balance, very good. There will be bad parts for sure, and this feels like we're at the beginning of a major recompilation of the way society works. And I grant that this time may be different. Like, maybe intelligence really is the fundamental human thing, and this is going to be different from all previous technological revolutions. But we could have had a similar conversation before the Industrial Revolution, before the Agricultural Revolution, before the Computer Revolution. And I very deeply believe that human ingenuity, creativity, desire to do things, to help others, to make Burning Man, I really believe that although I can't sit here, neither I think can anyone else with any confidence, and tell you like, here's exactly how people are going to fulfill this, that they're going to, and it's going to be better. And if we could, like, I would not go back and stop technological progress, although it's come with huge pain. And then finally, like, to paint the big upside picture here, you said something earlier that I really loved, which is people shouldn't have to pay to live. And I think that is, like, out of many choices, the single most fucked up thing about society right now. But I think we're near the end of that. I think we're near a world where actually people can do whatever they want at a scale we can't imagine, like at a scale where the universe is the playground, and where we can provide a fantastic life for everyone, where we can like solve our current problems. There'll be new ones, but we'll just get better and better. And as long as we don't destroy ourselves before this happens, which I think is a real consideration and one we've got to be careful for, the future can be so good when everyone has like unimaginable resources, opportunity, tools to help them. And kind of what I hope for is that the benefits of AGI, so like, you know, universal basic income at massive scale where like everyone is just like unimaginably well off, access to the systems, which I think, you know, we really want to put this out into the world and let everybody get to use it, because I think, again, what we're seeing now is that snowflake on the iceberg you mentioned, and then the governance over all of this, like how we decide what the framework is, what we want society to be like. We want that to be distributed as fairly and widely as possible. And that's another reason to put this stuff out. I know we started late. Should we take audience questions or keep going?
Maybe just kind of keep going a bit though, because I think so. I wish if I could ask you like where this is going, I wish you had a really strong, powerful, positive future that I could believe in, or the Midjourney guys did, or the Stable Diffusion guys. The fact that you don't is what terrifies me about this, and what makes my mind want to, like, if they're not thinking about, if they don't know where this is going, I like, you know, universal basic income. That's another, you know, that could be debated, but I think where I kind of sort of come from is this, like, it's the asymmetrical balance of value and power, like making art and using that, like there's something that we humans, we need a purpose. Like getting all of our food in our ass wiped and free Netflix is not gonna make humanity any like stronger or better like spacefaring people. Like we need challenges. You have created an incredible challenge to oversee, but when you talk about the technical revolutions or agricultural revolutions, no one's really going to argue, and the fact that people loved digging ditches or, you know, hammering railroads, and so taking away physical labor that was literally killing people. So these people are going to lose their jobs, but taking away any incentive for an organic, creative experience from people, you're taking away one of the nectar aspects of conscious life on this planet. And what are you giving us in return for that? Like a beautiful imagination appendix slot machine of possibilities. And how are we going to extract or find value in ourselves when so much of the heavy lifting is this exponentially intelligent tool that just gets better and faster and knows us more and more. We're so outpaced. Like I feel like such a relic already, and we're not even at the opening credits. We're at the ending credits of organic art history as we know it. Like the lights are on, we're checking our phones, are we gonna eat the rest of this popcorn? Like it's over, people. Like digital image creation is over, and we're just the canary in the coal mine. And so, yeah, how do you, I want to give, I said a lot. I'd love to give you the opportunity to respond to whatever you like there.
Again, I feel it. I empathize. I don't think this is. I don't agree with all of that, but I feel all of it. I really deeply believe that if we can create powerful tools that leave humans in charge, we will find ways to be far better off. And I disagree with the point that at the previous revolutions there weren't people fighting it tooth and nail. I love to go back and sort of read the history of these and read what people said in real time. But there actually was a lot of people saying, like, we're not gonna have jobs. What's gonna be the meaning? I get up and work every day. I nail this railroad. I'm proud of this. This is my thing. I did this. And for those people who maybe had no artistic talent at all or very little, that was how they got meaning. That was like a valid way to get meaning. Artists get meaning in a different way. I think lots of other jobs get meaning in different ways. Now, again, I agree with you, this is all going to change. But when we have a superpower at our fingertips, the way that I think about this is there will be this like gigantic skyscraper full of computers, and we will all be able to ask it things. And it can be like, help me cure cancer, or it can be like, how can I be happier in my life? Like whatever you want, you'll have this incredible intelligence that makes you the best version of yourself and makes collective humanity and beyond the best that it can be too. The chance that I don't think we figure out how to use that for a radically better and more creative future in ways that we can't sit here and imagine, just like we weren't able to imagine what the computer would do to society and creativity, which again did negatively and positively impact a lot of jobs. We're gonna get that again. And there's nothing that I have seen in the history of humanity to suggest that if we can find the right guardrails, if we can figure out a way to share governance of that and access and benefits, that's not going to be really good. Yes, we don't get to create images anymore in the same way we don't get to do a lot of things that brought previous generations meaning, but the upside of what can be, I think it's like a failure of imagination to say we can know it won't be far better.
Yeah, well, I admit, as well said, I will admit that my limitations, that my positive imagination is failing, it's definitely winning out, and man, please change my mind about this, but I just want to be really clear, this isn't, I think a lot of people have the example of automated driving is going to take over truck driving. That totally makes sense. I get it. There's not a lot of truck drivers that are they love their families. There's not a lot of people that are passionate about driving trucks and long hours and big gulps and waiting for the shower at the love station. It's not a big calling for a lot of people. It's a compromise that they make. And it's so different. Just if you guys understand, for all of our recorded human history, artists and creatives had a monopoly on being able to take an idea, a concept, something, their imagination, and manifest it and execute that in a visual form that other people could see and communicate. It's a form of communication, form of this. We were the linchpin of that, and you think of all the value. I mean, all the time I spent being an artist and knowing this special thing that I did it when I was a kid. I was the kid that could make the book covers. I liked feeling special. That special translates to a value. I have something valuable that people don't have, and I'm able to exchange that value and support myself. It's the taking away, what is it gonna look like for something? This isn't building better railroads, but it's taking away the opportunity of all these people to express that type of creative value, because it's not that it's a little bit better. I mean, our imaginations are just completely obsolete compared to what this is going to make possible.
I have maybe a different cut at this, because I
Please.
think it's always sometimes helpful to change your frame. So one thing AI can do now is, maybe some truck drivers love it. I agree, probably not that many. Many artists really love it, and they get deep satisfaction from that. Society gets the benefit from the art. Many scientists really love what they do too, and get incredible personal satisfaction from doing their job, the thrill of discovery, being the one to do it, having the world know that they're one to do it, and also just the like deep emotional, intellectual fulfillment from doing something useful. Pretty soon, I think we will be able to use AI to, like, let's say, cure cancer. And the question is, do we take away the enjoyment of the other humans that want to do that to let another 20 years, 30 years worth of people die of cancer, rather than push the button and have the AI do it right now?
So I get to choose between my daughter continuing wanting to be an artist or not curing cancer.
I think one of the unfortunate things about progress in AI is you don't get to pick and choose.
Gosh, I mean, you guys have so much computing power. Isn't somebody to have a simulator that's just running a world simulation? Can't you guys, can't you guys like simulate this out 10 years and at least say, hey, we checked it out, like 80%, looks pretty good. We're gonna move forward with this. If we're living in a simulation, let's just simulate these, if the AI is so smart, can't it tell us like what it's going to be like?
We do not have the computing power to simulate Earth, but I wish we did.
Oh,
we would
man,
do a lot of cool things with that.
So much easier, wouldn't it?
Questions?
Yeah, questions. Let's do this. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you all.